he, they, she pronouns.
I'm a co-founder of BYP 100 too.
Yes, you is.
I'm also a youngest child, so I have to prove my point a lot.
I'm also the youngest child, so
Same.
we're going to be around all week.
We're Aries, and we're going to be here. And we're a part of a group called Care A Lot, because we care a lot, okay? And creating change here at the task force, we want folks to know how much we care. Because we keep us safe. Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Let me tell you who ain't keeping us. You already know, okay? So with the We Keep Us Safe, we want to make sure that there are 3 different ways that we as Creating Change production team and task force staff are holding our communities. And that's through, 1, the behind the scenes. So every day before our plenary, Jonathan and I will be here to help amplify all the creative ways that we are keeping us safe. 2, the care table, Care a Lot table. Did anybody see the bears?
Show them the bear.
I'm going to show you.
With the heart.
Okay, this is the bear.
Oh.
So if you were here last year, make some noise. So one of y'all might be the people who took the bear the last time. The bear went missing for about 24 hours. I'm just saying, we might need a GoPro.
that bear. They needed that bear.
You know what? That's right. It's here for us.
Care Bears are in the house.
So the Care Bears are here to be a wellness place you can come to. You can sit down and talk to us about things that are going on. We have a Care Bear bingo you can take care of. We got some lights. We got some Play-Doh. We also have some therapists who are here to talk to people and help us de-escalate. And then another way we do it is through political and popular education workshops. And I think I've hit all 3 of our Care a Lot ways. Boom, because we care a lot.
We care a lot.
We care. Okay. I love making up a chant. Okay, so now what else we want to talk about real quick is da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. They're going to give me a cue. We're going to play a language justice video because we care about language justice. All right? I'm back. I'm going to come back in about 4 seconds or maybe 7. But we together creating change.
Welcome to Creating Change 2025.
Bienvenidos a la conferencia Creando Cambio 2025. Soy Jamila Craig de Jami Linguists. Soy una mujer negra de piel oscura, de color canela, con un piercing en el septo de mi nariz. Llevo una jaqueta negra con una camiseta negra, pintalabio rojo y una pulsera de color roja, negra, verde y amarilla, aretes negros con un puño de poder negro.
I'm Hunter Williams of Evolution of Signs. I'll provide a visual description. I have a blue background, a pageboy cap, glasses, mustache and beard. I have a black polo short sleeve shirt. I have black earrings and I have rings. I am a black, deaf, blind, trans masculine individual. I am Loshonda, lawyer, owner of Cocoa Language Advocacy and Consulting. I'm a black femme. I have a black head wrap. I have gold earrings with a hanging tail. I have gold septum, nose piercing, and vertical labrae. I'm wearing a black blouse that's long sleeve and it has a V-neck with a black necklace that holds a crystal.
Las plenarias son el único espacio que no requiere una solicitud específica para servicios de interpretación. La interpretación para talleres y institutos se brindará bajo solicitud. Para quienes necesiten interpretación portátil de lengua de señas estadounidense o en español, la mejor forma de acceder es 1. Únete al grupo de WhatsApp para tu idioma preferido. Utiliza los códigos QR aquí, en el mostrador de registro o en el espacio de la conferencia. Los 3 son portátil, lengua de señas estadounidense o ASL y español. 2. Aprovecha de la tecnología disponible. Descarga Feedloop. Para interpretación simultánea en español, también descarga la aplicación Live Voice. Además del equipo portátil de interpretación, la aplicación Live Voice se utilizará en algunas sesiones en español. 3. Una vez que has hecho todo eso, presta atención a las comunicaciones en Feedloop y WhatsApp. Cuenta con nosotros. Compartiremos un enlace para que compartas tu programa de la conferencia y lo tomaremos desde ahí en WhatsApp.
Hey, y'all. Y'all like that pause we just did? That was for you. Take your breath. You know what I'm saying? Catch it. Tomorrow we back. And tomorrow I'm going to talk to more people about what they're doing behind the scenes to amplify more resistance, more power and love inside of our Creating Change community. But right now, I've been waiting to say this part all day, okay? Because this person that I'm about to introduce is the MC, the authoress. Catch that. Okay, respond. Authoress. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The journalist, cultural force of nature, the one and only. You can listen to it in an audiobook. You can read the book. You can watch it on Instagram. Trey Vale Anderson.
Hello. You like it? Thank you so much. Shout out to y'all. Oh, see, they tried to get me, y'all. Oh, that's what I get for showing off. Okay, well, first and foremost, thank you all so much for your patience. Okay, we wanted to make sure everything remains accessible, so we had some technical difficulties. But it's working now, praise the Lord. Shout out to Janae and Jonathan. Did y'all like that song? They had us crying in the back. A desire to be free keeps us alive. Hold on to that. Okay. So shout out to them. Like they said, they're going to be giving behind the scenes information and amplifying various voices that we have here all week. I'm super grateful to be here. I don't know if y'all know, but a whole lot is going on outside of these four walls. A whole lot. I'm also from Los Angeles. Well, I'm not from Los Angeles, but that's where I live. And so y'all know there's been fires and other foolishness going on. We also are told that some of your cousins who aren't here are having travel issues because of snowmageddons all over the South. Okay, so they'll be filling in, perhaps. Okay, stay tuned. Nonetheless, we are so excited to be here at Creating Change. One of the things that we want to impart this morning, this week in particular, is that if you are feeling whatever you are feeling about what's going on, that we got us, that we as a community will come and support each other. And just in case I was the first person to tell you that, I want y'all to do me a favor, okay? I come from the Black church, all right? So it's gonna get a little churchy real quick, but I promise it'll be all right. I want you to turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, praise the Lord, we got us. Turn to your other neighbor and say, neighbor, we got us. Now turn to me and say, hey. Period. I love people who follow directions. Okay, this year's theme is rooted in resistance, power, and love. The theme is a call to action, emphasizing the importance of confronting injustice, harnessing our collective power, and acting with love. At Creating Change here in Las Vegas, we invite you all to explore how resistance nurtures our LGBTQ plus movement, strengthens our activism, and shapes our future. On site is our staff members from the best queer and trans-led organizations in this country. We're all coming together to organize, okay, to figure out how we fight back in this moment. The task force is also responding. They've put out statements in the wake of that man's inauguration and all of them little executive orders. In case you don't know what an executive order is, they've also put out resources for that as well, so you know how we will be fighting back as much as we can. You can clap for that, absolutely, absolutely. And while we are here in Las Vegas, we want you to be engaged in the conference, but also in the change we need to create right now, because we are resilient, we are powerful, and like I said, we got us, okay? Now, the conference app, Feed Loop. Everybody got Feed Loop? Okay, if you don't, and that's feed with a PH, okay? Like Baby Fat, or Monique's 2006 feature film, Fat Girls. Perhaps. Shout out to the Baby Fat in the audience. I see you. Make sure you're checking Feed Loop. Because of some of the travel, situations, certain things are going to be adjusted in the schedule. That's how you'll make sure you have all the latest information. And now I'm going to get out the way so we can get this all going. Please welcome National LGBTQ Task Force and Action Fund President Kiara Johnson, along with Vice President Sarah Reese and Alicia Boykins.
Good morning. Dang, y'all got up early. I'm glad you're here with us glad to hear for this morning. I didn't know there was somebody to my right. This is a collective and evolving statement in progress over 3 years and includes language borrowed with gratitude from UNLV's land acknowledgment. Before we can fully begin this conference, we believe that it is necessary for us to acknowledge that the task force is hosting Creating Change on stolen land. The National LGBTQ Task Force acknowledges and honors the Indigenous communities of this region and recognizes that this meeting is situated on the traditional homelands of Nuwu, Southern Paiute people. In addition to permission, we ask for the blessings of the ancestors and current stewards of this spiritual land. We offer gratitude for the land itself, for those who have stewarded it for generations, and for the opportunity to learn, work, and be in community with this land. We encourage each and every one of you in this space to engage in continued learning about the Indigenous peoples who work and live on this land since time immemorial, including the Las Vegas Paiute tribe and the Moapa Band of Paiutes. Beyond simply acknowledging this historical fact on stage in Las Vegas, we must more importantly reckon with the impact of this theft upon Indigenous people today. In addition to being a descendant of Indigenous people of Turtle Island, I also speak as the descendant of Indigenous Africans who were forcibly brought to this place and held in captivity as enslaved people. I am here today in alliance with my Indigenous siblings in the fight against settler colonial logics that preserve the ongoing violence of anti-Black racism and Indigenous dispossession on this land. This statement is meant to serve two purposes. First, to remind us of the vibrant histories of Indigenous people on this land. Second, that deserves that. Second, this statement is a call to all of us to interrogate our complicity with colonialism, and to commit to decolonial practices that do not relegate Indigenous people to the past or promote the stereotype of the ecological Indian. The task force is committed to staying curious, evolving our perspectives, and taking responsibility for our relationship with Indigenous communities and to supporting Indigenous futurity. The task force is committed to pursuing LGBTQ+ freedom in solidarity with Indigenous communities, which includes facing the contradictions between the social justice goals created by settler institutions and the pursuit of Indigenous sovereignty, decolonization, and abolition. We invite you now to join us in a moment of silence in order to reflect upon our current occupation on this land, to consider the meaning of land beyond settler colonial frameworks like the nonprofit organization or liberal democracy. And now I also ask you to join us to lift your voices, your hands, and your hearts in celebration. In celebration of the resilience and ingenuity of Indigenous peoples, power, and culture, and to recognize and honor the leadership of Indigenous people today. Thank you. Ooh, my most important part, I get to introduce Meredith Morgan, my sibling. Where are you, boo? Please give them a very warm welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. It's so lovely to see you again for a third year in a row. Will you guys please acknowledge my Two-Spirit family up here, please? Today, for our opening ceremony, I'm going to offer a prayer. And I'm also going to offer a couple words that have been really heavy on my heart. And I always say this before and after forms of land acknowledgement. Acknowledging land does not heal generations of trauma punished by colonialism. And so I ask that you don't just say, I acknowledge this land, because I can also acknowledge that I don't like you, right? But that's not an action. And it is important that we stand in our actions. And we stand in solidarity with our Indigenous people and those who have fallen victim to the colonialism before and now. And so I ask you specifically, no tea, no shade to my white attendees, that you approach my elder who has welcomed us to this land today, and you shake his hand, and you say, thank you for letting me be here. Chokma Sahachifo at Meredith Morgan Wallace, or Nagamano Benisikwe. That means singing bird women in my Sac and Fox language. That name was given to me by my sister Wabano. I was going to pray in my traditional Chickasaw language today, but with things looking the way they are, I wanted everyone in the crowd to be able to hear my prayer too. And so I acknowledge my creator, Abba Manilima, creator of all. And I pray for the safety of everyone at this conference, the unity, the peace, and the love that we need. I pray for those who have been lost to us in the past year, the violence of the world, and those lost to the violence inflicted on them by a system, and those who, unfortunately, felt that they could not continue on longer themselves. I pray for our future, and I remind you, no matter who you are, trans, queer, gay, lesbian, whatever your identifier is, You are not whatever legislation tells you. You are not just gay, straight, bisexual, queer, trans, a man or a woman. You are an experience. Thank you. I would like to welcome Matt up next after me. I'm so sorry.
Maikwes, hagaru. Hello, how are you in my native tongue? Welcome to Creating Change 2025. Wow, just look at all of you beautiful souls out there today. All of you are resilient, looking strong out there. It's good to see you guys. My name is Matthew Cruz, and I'm a proud member of the Chemehuevi Indian tribe, the most southern branch of Southern Paiutes. I identify as gay two-spirit amongst my people with the pronouns of he, him, they. As a two-spirit, I've been chosen by the Creator with a task to help people and loved ones grieve to heal their hearts and minds while simultaneously guiding our loved ones who have passed before us and are making their transition to the Milky Way with our traditional ceremonies. It's an honor to be present here with you all today. With that said, on behalf of my ancestors, Southern Paiute people, the Northern Paiute people, and local communities, we welcome you to our ancestral homelands of the Las Vegas Valley. With that said, it was a beautiful prayer. Thank you for that prayer. And I just want to piggyback off that, and I want to open up our space here in a good way and honor the four directions and as well as our ancestors. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quickly, okay? Tantui. Gantuan. Tantuvats. Asan tapat. And if everyone could put your hands out forward in front of you symbolically, and you're just going to receive the blessings. With that said, I'm going to share a Southern Paiute Bighorn sheep song. And it represents the resiliency of my people and our ancestors. Para With that said, I just wanted to remind everyone here today, my message for you. Creator loves you. He loves each and every one of you. And I want you to promise yourself to love yourself unconditionally. Because when you do, you create a closer relationship with the Creator. And when you do that, everything's going to be okay. I just want to say that. Sometimes it's good to hear people to let you know that things are going to be okay. Just be strong with your faith. Stand strong. And, things are going to be okay. A little bit about myself. I kind of skipped over a little bit, but I am a two-spirit amongst my community. And what I do for my people as a two-spirit, I hold ceremony for my people, and I travel all up and down the Colorado River, helping different tribes, people, all people, really, not just Native people. But with our ceremonies, I help our people heal, I help them grieve. We just help them get through things, but we get through it all together, as one people. But very honored to be here today. So I just wanted to share that little part with you of what I do. But now, with that said, on to our Indigenous Leadership Award. The Lozen and Datsti were two-spirit Chiricahua Apache warriors who fought alongside the legendary Native American freedom fighter Geronimo. Too often, people remember Lozen and Datstis without acknowledging the fact that they were two-spirit, fiercely devoted to the land and their people, who were in love before and after being violently separated by colonization. This award is given to two-spirit Indigenous and Digi-queer people who have given their time and energy to their community in an effort to raise up understanding of who we are. They have shown by their word and action that they honor those who have come before us and are committed to the generations who come after us. They do their work not asking for or expecting praise or recognition for their contribution. In our traditional ways, the recognition of a leader is someone who makes decisions based on the needs and for the good of the people. With this in mind, this award raises up, and it is with true respect we honor in our traditional manner 2025 Dean Barlees. Oh!
Hold on, let me grab the other mic.
Isa awamo. Dean Barlis Munane Nika Numa Puyo Jakar. Ishagaitsi. Wanna thanks today, this day.
I think this is him.
I am Northern Paiute and Warm Springs from Pyramid Lake. And in our ancient language, I am Mukakwi Tuhu Ono Tukara, the ancient Paiute term for two-spirit, those who feast with the mountain lion. The term is so old we lost the meaning of why they refer to us as that. That's what we are. We've always been here since the creation. I learned from my elders, my old people, about who I am. My grandma on my dad's side, my grandpa on my dad's side taught me. I grew up listening to the Paiute language every day. So I have I don't know what they call it. It's not English, not perfect English. But anyway, they said, we're always here. They said, when I get older, I'm going to witness the change that's coming. So that's what I believe in. That change is coming. Well, I always stand for our elders, our ancestors. And even last year, we sat in front of the excavator at Ihimuhu, or Thacker Pass, northern Nevada, battling with the lithium mine over our sacred sites, massacre site from 1865, where our people are still out there. They weren't given the privilege of being buried. So this big mining corporation came in. BLM gave them state of Nevada's old antiquated mining law, gave them that land to mine lithium. We had to stand up and fight, even though I wasn't able to stand at that time, was in a wheelchair, but we sat there holding my pipe, stopping them from a couple days from work.
I know that's right.
We still stand. We still got to fight. We still stand and fight for the sacred spiritual things that we have, that I know exist out in the land. And we're also having to go to court. We got sued by this lithium corporation, multi-billion-dollar corporation, suing us. We have next to nothing. They're suing us, so we're also fundraising for the lawyer fees. So if you want to help, go to Thacker Pass, protect Thacker Pass, Ihimuhu, we call in our language. Sacred site and massacre site. So be proud of who you are. Like I said, way before Christianity even came to this land, we always been here. We were part of creation. And we will continue to be part of creation. We got to love each other, love yourself, most of all. Work I do, I've brought ancestors home from many different places. Some of our ancestors we buried, go back 12, 15,000 years. I've taken care of them, wrapped them, put them back in the ground where they belong. They don't belong in the museums. They don't belong in the institutions of study. Our people, the bones of our people need to go back to the dust. And we're always told when we walk on our Mother Earth, Biarip, we always walk on the dust of our ancestors. And that's where we're all created from, the mud and the dirt of this land.
Yeah.
So with that, I want to give thanks for all of us being who we are.
Bell first.
And proud, be proud of who you are. Always stand for the right, the good. No matter what this world throws at us, we got to stand up. And our old people mentioned at one time, I was to witness the falling of this land, the falling of this country, I guess I should say. This country only been here for, 300 years or so? Our people been here for forever. I know that. Creator doesn't say this is no longer your land. We're always going to be the caretakers. Oh, mitakuyasni, in the earlier way that I follow, the Lakota way. Jamu, share you. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, it looks like they're done. I think after the folding of the blanket. Wait till the folding of the blanket.
Hey y'all, how's everybody doing this morning? A little sleepy still? Everybody excited to have a good time in Sin City for creating change? I know I'm excited. I'm super happy that we were able to honor my elder dean. I lived with him for a few years up in Pyramid Lake, and yeah, I think I traveled like 1,400 miles to get him here today, so I'm really glad that we're able to be here. And now I have the honor and privilege of introducing Justice Begay. Deborah Ann Begay is Nakai Dene, born from Kenyaane. Her maternal grandfathers are Mountain Cove clan, and her paternal grandfathers are Bitterwater clan. In this way, Deborah is Dene, or Navajo. She is a citizen of the Navajo Nation from Lupton, Arizona. Deborah is a proud Navy veteran, two-spirit individual, and trailblazing leader dedicated to restorative justice, education, and advocacy for the Native American and LGBTQ+ communities. A graduate of UC Berkeley, where she majored in Native American history, Deborah built a foundation for her lifelong commitment to uplifting Indigenous voices and preserving cultural heritage. She has furthered her expertise in law by earning a Juris Doctorate degree from the Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law, specializing in federal Indian law. As a Flynn Brown Fellow, Deborah has demonstrated exceptional leadership in Arizona, contributing to initiatives that promote civic engagement and inclusive policy reform. She made history as the first elected Native American to serve in Maricopa Justice Courts, where she upholds fairness and equity for all. In addition to her judicial and legal achievements, Deborah is a passionate LGBTQ+ advocate and published author, using her platform to amplify Two-Spirit and Indigenous stories, celebrate diversity, and address social justice issues. Her multifaceted career reflects a deep dedication to service, empowerment, and the fight for LGBTQ+ equality. Without further ado, Ann Begay.
Yata Deborah Ann Begay, Yashni, Nakai Dene Neshli, Kiani Bashanini, Torashini Dashnili, Lupton, Arizona, De Nashnili. Hello, friends, family. I introduce myself in my ancestral language to welcome my native family as well as to honor my ancestors. My name is Deborah Ann Begay, and I'm honored to be the speaker this morning. I come from a lineage where Two-Spirit was a sacred vocation. This was before the violent invasion of the colonists. Two-Spirits embody the male and female spirit. We were recognized in our Indigenous communities as healers, peacemakers, and visionaries. Two-Spirit is the die the Holy Ones cast for me. It is an unchangeable nature of my identity. I consider it sacred, inherent, and divinely ordained. I'm here to challenge societal norms that attempt to suppress or erase such truths. My traditional role here in the 20th century is that of a go-between. I am here to help different groups of people communicate with each other. I am not an advocate only for Two-Spirit, but for Indigenous concerns as well. What I'm doing, I am turning double oppression, homophobia, and racism into double opportunity. The chance to build bridges into communities, to create a place for two spirits in both the worlds that we live in, to honor our past and to secure our future. Cherie Demeline, a Métis author, said, "And I understood that as long as there are dreamers left, there will never be want for a dream." Black Elk, a revered Oglala Lakota leader, also said, "Sometimes dreams are wiser than waking." I am honored to stand here today on sacred land that has been both pain and resilience, to share a dream that belongs not just to me, but to all of us, a dream rooted in the ancient wisdom of our ancestors and the sacred essence of being Two-Spirit. I have a dream that one day our Two-Spirit relatives will walk through this world without fear, without shame, and without the burden of invisibility, that we will be recognized not as something other, but as the sacred beings we have always been, a bridge between worlds carrying the balance of masculine and feminine and embodying the wisdom of generations. I envision a future where Two-Spirit children will grow up in communities that honor their spirit, where they are not forced to choose between their identities and their traditions, where they are not asked to dim their light to fit into a box created by others. I look forward to a day when the languages of our ancestors, which hold words for Two-Spirit identities, will be spoken with pride once again, that the teachings of our grandmothers and our grandfathers, who knew the sacredness of our roles, will rise above the silences imposed by colonization. I see a world where Two-Spirit people will stand as leaders, healers, and storytellers in our nations, unbroken by the erasure of our history, untouched by the violence of prejudice, that our nations will honor our place within the circle as was done before. I hold a dream close to my heart that the wounds inflicted by boarding schools, systemic oppression, and cultural genocide will heal, not forgotten, but transformed into the strength that binds us together. That every Two-Spirit, from the plains to the forests, from the mountains to the deserts, will know they are loved, valued, and necessary. I look forward to the day when justice will flow like a mighty river and healing like an endless stream, that our communities will rise together, united in love and respect, ensuring that no one is left behind, because the circle is not complete without every single one of us. I believe in a tomorrow where the world will see us as we are, warriors, nurturers, visionaries, and guardians of balance. That we will no longer be defined by the chains of colonialism, but by the power of our truth and the beauty of our existence. Let us rise together, Two-Spirit and ally alike, and declare that the time of silence is over. Let us march forward into a world where our dreams can live, where our spirits can soar, and where love will triumph over hate. These are the visions I hold in my heart, a vision for our relations, for the Two-Spirit people who came before us, for those who stand here today, and for those yet to come. Let us build this vision together. Let us heal the land, the people, and ourselves. Let us return to the circle and remember the teachings of balance, love, and respect. And when that day comes, we will sing songs of our ancestors and dance beneath the stars, knowing that we have not just survived, we have thrived. For we are Two-Spirit, and we are sacred. With this new administration, we may have fewer and fewer places to gather, So it gets important to know about our dreams, to remember the past, and to be united as we move forward. As I close, I encourage you to honor the sacred within, a flame carried by your two-spirit kin. We are dreamers, the bridge, the light, holding the balance through the shadow and night. In our hearts lies the wisdom of old, stories of love, both tender and bold. We rise like the sun, fierce and free, carving a path for all to see. Together we mend what time could break. We healed the wounds for our future's sake. The circle turns, its beauty complete, when every spirit has a place and a seat. So let the drums echo. Let the song soar high. Let our spirits dance beneath the sky, for the two-spirit journey is sacred and true, a gift to the world, a dream renewed. There you go. Thank you.
Can I get there we go. Can we get one more round of applause, please and thank you? All right, now I'm going to welcome back up Kiara Johnson, President of the National LGBTQ Task Force and Action Fund. A round of applause. Thank you so much.
We back here talking, laughing, and I talk too fast. So I've been asked to slow it down to a sexy pace. Not too slow, a sexy pace. So I'm gonna roll with y'all in a sexy pace, even though we are behind schedule. Because you know what? What is time? What is time? What needs to be said is going to be said. We have people who have led the day-long institute, brilliant savants who will be carrying you for the rest of the day. No, we're running a little bit behind, so there is respect being had. But we want you to be able to have this next panel. But before we do that, I want to punctuate what just happened. We just received an immense amount of grace. We just received blessings, immeasurable blessings. We just received honor and gifts that we don't necessarily deserve. We are not entitled to what our indigenous siblings just gave us. Do you hear what I'm saying? I'm gonna say it again. We are not entitled to what our indigenous siblings just gave to us. I want us to feel that gift. I want you to feel what it means to have been given the benefit of the doubt and a trust blindly. Okay, y'all. Do you hear what I'm saying? What happened up here wasn't like, we need you to trust us before we can trust you. That's not what happened. What happened here is that we all were just given the benefit of the doubt and a blessing from our indigenous siblings who steward this land and have been doing it for centuries, millennium. And so, how do we pay that forward? We can. No, we can. We pay it forward, and I'm going to tell you how. You show the same grace. You bestow blessings. You give benefit of the doubt. You trust blindly. You show humility. You give people an opportunity to evolve and to show up even if they haven't in the past. We give people the space and energy and community to continue to evolve with us, even when they might not have shown up in the past. The only way for us to do that is to show grace for ourselves. Nobody in this room knows everything about every community in this space. And that is a delicious thing. That's a lot of deliciousness that we all get to be a part of unwrapping and unpacking and trying on and bathing in, getting baptized in, right? Oh, I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps. This is an honor and a privilege to be in this delicious gumbo that we are in right now. So I ask you to take time and taste the rainbow. Taste the rainbow. Take your time. Ask questions. Unpack your assumptions. Be reflective about your triggers. Figure out what it means to feed a space that is needed now more than ever. Nobody should leave this space feeling like it's not their space. That doesn't mean we aren't holding each other accountable. It doesn't mean we're not doing political education. But what we are is a community. We're a community. You know, you can't pick your family, they say. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I have a couple family members that voted for the dude who's in office right now. But you know what? If I was hurt, if I needed money, if I was so needed a place to stay, that Bama would still offer me a place to seek solace. We don't all have to agree all the time. No, let me change that. We will never agree all the time. Not never. It's never happened. But what we can commit to is evolving together. What we can commit to is growing together. What we can commit to is grace together. What we can commit to is vulnerability. Vulnerability, I fundamentally believe, is what is going to save us. We are so hurt. We are so scared. We are so angry. Some of it we know what it is. What's hard is all the things that we don't know, why we are hurting, the things that we can't touch, the things that we don't remember, the things that are in our DNA that we may never be able to touch. We have built up so many defenses to protect ourselves that we are armored from each other. We have armored ourselves from each other. Vulnerability demands that we take a risk and expose the wounds and invite someone in to heal with you. That is what I am leaving wishing for you all on this journey. To be vulnerable, it's a big ask, and you can't be vulnerable with everybody. So start with one person. Start with 3 people. Move to 10 people. When you're ready, you have to expose that and invite others to expose that. And that is how we fortify together. That is where hope lives. That is where love lives. That is where change lives. That is where your power lives. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Say it. We shall not be moved. I was supposed to talk for 5 minutes. They back in the back like, you know what? You know what? Should have known damn better Kiara wasn't going to go out there and speak for 5 minutes. Like, so, I think the panelists coming out, while they are coming out, just come on out, y'all. We're going to be community. So there's going to be some real, like, sharp stuff, and then it's going to get real community, kind of like a family reunion, too. So just come on out. I want to say this quote. It landed on me so deeply. James Baldwin, who's a fan? Who knows James Baldwin? For this time, I wanted to share this quote. We forged ourselves out of this fire. Come on in. Oh, you're going to be talking in a minute. We forged ourselves out of this fire. And if we can do that, and we have done that, we can deal with what now lies before us. So we're going to do a call and response real quick. Y'all good? We forged ourselves out of this fire. And if we can do that, and we have done that, we can deal with what now lies before us. I am going to stop talking because what these folks have to say is so delicious, so powerful, so inspiring, so grounding, so transformational. I get the privilege of knowing, hugging, laughing, drinking from this crew. I've wanted to do this for the last 3 years I've been in this position as your president of the National LGBTQ Task Force. Over the last 5 to 7 years, leadership of LGBTQ or national LGBTQ organizations and leadership overall has been shifting. We see more trans people, more people of color, more blacks. And so much gets projected onto us. What you think our leadership is, what you want it to be, what you assume it will be. People want us to save the democracy. Oh, I'm rapping. What, you know I had rhymes? And so I wanted an opportunity for a few of us, not all of us, because we everywhere and we roll deep, but a few of us to talk about from our own vantage points of leadership, what that has meant, where we are challenged, what the cost has been, what the delicious moments have been, and what the offerings are to the movement. Thank you.
I love her.
Well, good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
We have someone who's going to be coming to the stage to introduce some folks and say a few words to y'all. Y'all ready? All right. Let's see if they're ready.
If you stay ready. Come on. Come on. Me? Him? You talking to the moderator? Talking about you.
I'm Andre. We're about to do some introductions. Here we go.
Come on, Alfred.
We're going to let y'all know who we are in a minute.
All righty. Okay, we are going to get our plenary going. Okay, Black Leadership Rising. Okay, I'm going to introduce you to who all is here. We have our moderator, Vegas's own Andre Wade, State Director of Silver State Equality. We have Imani Rupert Gordon of the National Center for Lesbian Rights.
Yes, come on, SCLR.
We have the National Black Justice Coalition's Dr. David Johns. We have Mandisa Moore from the Center for HIV Law and Policy. And then we have former state representative and current director of digital organizing and Comms for Freedom Oklahoma, Maury Turner. Y'all have fun.
So good morning, y'all. We are going to talk about Black Leadership Rising. And so I think this panel proves that there is evidence that Black leadership is rising. We have 4 intelligent and accomplished Black leaders before us: a social worker, an attorney, a PhD, a first Muslim elected in Oklahoma's House District. All of this makes me feel like I need to go back to school. But aside from all of that, you all's presence is inspirational to everyone. My question is, for all of you, is Black leadership actually rising? So Imani, I'd like to start with you.
Sure. Audrey, thanks so much. Y'all, it is a pleasure and an honor to be on the stage with you. And keeping it brief, Black leadership is absolutely rising. We see across industries that we are seeing more Black folks, more LGBTQ folks, more folks from a lot of underrepresented identities. The other side of that is that we see attacks on these committees too. So, we see attacks on DEI, attacks on critical race theory, on affirmative action. These things go hand in hand, and so I'm excited to get into why that is.
All right, so we got a yes, Black leadership is rising. Dr. Johns, what say ye?
Yeah, good morning, good people. I taught kindergarten and 3rd grade. Good morning, good people.
Good morning.
All right, appreciate y'all. So I'm gonna push on the premise of the question a little bit and remind us all that everything started in Africa, which means that Black leadership has always been rising. And I want to just name that right, that we are the original influencers. There would not be anything if it were not for us. To Imani's acknowledgement, too often we are dealing with the complications of whiteness, the ways in which white mediocrity gets in the way, the ways in which people don't actually believe in things like meritocracy in spite of the fact that they purport to care about it. Those are the conditions that we've always had to fight through in order to take up space. But I just want to level set and make sure that everybody appreciates that we always have been popping, always will be popping, in spite of all of the shit that they try.
All right. And don't y'all forget it. Mandisa.
Hey, y'all. Is it on?
It is on.
It is?
Oh, it's not on.
Hey, y'all. Okay,
There
yeah.
you go.
I heard myself. First of all, just such an honor talking with y'all. Thinking of what was said, I want to complicate what leadership is, like in this way where all the ways that Black people lead isn't always acknowledged. It's often very gendered, and it's often based on the region that you're in. So as a Black Southern lesbian, it's important like that I acknowledge, yes,
Black leadership is on the rise. And I come from a city, a state, a region that has always had Black leaders because that's meant our survival. And even people who haven't been acknowledged as leaders have been in that role in terms of that has meant our safety. It's meant us being able to make it and to thrive. And so that doesn't get acknowledged in many of the spaces and many of the conversations as we talk about leadership. And so for me, it's important to say again, yes, and we've always been here, and is the support of Black leadership rising? And I would posit it's actually decreasing.
That's right.
So that's what I actually want to also talk about is the support, like both institutional and interpersonal. Where is that?
It's very hard to follow all three of those answers, but I think the only thing I could add is also, I think the ways that we get to interact with communities, right, that provides new lenses because like everyone has said, right, is like Black leadership has always been here, but now we get more ways to connect with one another, to see the teachings, to learn and share with one another. And so like as we are leaving January and heading into Black History and Futures Month, right, think about the ways that we are shifting how we connect to the material, right? Because like anything, my foundation, like I am grateful for spaces like this, so grateful, but also my foundation in community organizing and advocacy, like that came from my grandmother and my mother, my communities, right? And so understanding that those teachings aren't just what folks learn in a classroom, and so we have to be able to listen to folks when they tell us when they ask for what they need and when they demand it, right? And so I think it's really, really important to we also think about diversifying in what we are thinking of as leadership, and the voices we're listening to and the people that we're listening to. So, yeah.
So we have established that Black leadership is and always has been rising with some challenges. For Amani and Representative Turner, what are some of those challenges that are facing Black leaders in general and in the queer space? Mandisa touched on it a little bit by talking about lack of support. So again, what are some of the challenges that Black leaders are facing? Amani.
I'm happy to start.
For it.
There's a few things that come to mind, but for time, I'm gonna share this one. So we spend a lot of time talking about what it's like to be the first, that there is an influx. We're seeing more Black leadership. And I remember this interview that I saw years ago with Gabrielle Union, and she was talking about what it was like for her when she would go and audition for films. And she would say that she wanted to show up as her best self, and for her best self is Janet Jackson. She loves Janet Jackson. She listens to Janet Jackson. She puts music on. When she's doing her makeup, she adds a little birthmark so she looks closer to Janet Jackson. When she gets to the space after being in this car, having listened to this music, she is feeling her best self. And that really resonated with me because I think for a lot of us, we have a folk. If it's not Janet Jackson, maybe it's whoever it is for you, whoever you refer to. I was gonna. Maybe it's your Beyonce. So, but you have this idea of how you're going to show up as your best self. And so she's feeling like that. As she's walking in the door, the person who had auditioned before is coming out. And just when they meet, she realizes, of course, the person auditioning before was Janet Jackson. And now this isn't her analysis, this is my analysis, but it's only in that moment that she realized she actually wasn't presenting the very best version of herself. She was presenting the second best Janet Jackson they had seen that day. And that really stood out to me, and I started thinking about that a lot when we start talking about Black leadership. And it's because for a lot of us, and I think for a lot of folks, even folks wanting to protect you, want to say, hey, this is what was done before. Hey, you want to be more like this. You want to be more like this person. And what I think is important is that in this moment where we are seeing different leadership all over, that we also need to have space for folks to be able to lead in a way that's authentic to them. Because what we don't want to do is to be showing up as the second best Janet Jackson. You know, there are ways that the organization that, the National Center for Lesbian Rights, the organization that I lead, that we're doing better than we ever have before. And that is in part because of my leadership. And
can you say that again without the
On it.
I appreciate. And that's not to say, you know, my predecessor was incredible and did amazing things. And I done amazing things. And the person that comes after me will do amazing things. We just have to allow folks to be able to lead in a way that is unique to them. And I think when we are spending time right now saying that this is something we honor, it also means holding space for something looking different. But also, when you are the person in that space, to allow yourself to be you. You don't have to be Janet Jackson. You can be yourself, and that's how you're going to be great.
That's a word.
Well, when I was in 6th grade, I wanted to be Janet Jackson, but that's another conversation. Representative Turner, what are your thoughts on it?
Like, yes, +1 to everything Imani has said, because when I first ran for office back in 2019 or 2020, there were several conversations that I sat through, because like you hear the stats, like if you're a woman, you have to be asked at least 7 times to run for office. But thinking about being a trans, non-binary Muslim from the buckle of the Bible Belt, I had a lot of conversations before I started to take the folks of House District 88 as seriously as they took me to ask me to do something like that. And so when I said, yes, I'll run for office, I said, but I will only do that if I get to be me. And for a lot of folks that didn't resonate too well, because folks don't like it when you wear overalls to the legislature, but, right? But that's what I want to talk about, is the intersectionality. I think for me, like, that was the biggest hurdle. Like, when I came into the legislature, my focus was in community organizing, specifically around criminal justice reimaginment and rebuilding, or criminal legal reimaginment and rebuilding. I guess what some folks call reform. And so when I went into the legislature, what I thought was going to happen was that I got to write some really powerful legislation specifically around reimagining our justice system, repealing really bad laws. Thank you. And that is what I did, but it also meant being the first trans person in the Oklahoma legislature, first openly trans person in the Oklahoma legislature, and the first openly non-binary person elected to a state-level position in U.S. history. It meant that I also had to be a champion for so many other things. And so I got to write HIV and AIDS decriminalization legislation. Thanks, right? So much to Mandisa's work. And some of the first in the nation for retroactivity around that decriminalization too. But one of the biggest hurdles was that folks then in the legislature, Republican and Democrat, saw me as a trans Oklahoman and no intersection. So I couldn't speak. So oftentimes folks tried to stop me from speaking about the intersection of trans folks in our criminal legal system and how hate crimes don't actually protect our people, right? Or about how putting "In God We Trust" on buildings, right, is an infringement on freedom of religion, right? So I got to come in and I got to learn so much about so many things, and I got to be a champion that folks, Democrat, Independent, Republican alike, said, well, I don't actually feel represented by my legislature, right? But this is the place where I do. So there were a lot of hurdles when it came to folks who were career politicians, but thanks to communities that elected me, because we want to see ourselves in policy, and not just see ourselves, but we want to be able to stand there and do that and be in that fight too, right? We want to be our own voices. Those were the folks that helped me get over those hurdles, right? And so a lot of hurdles when it came to folks not being ready for intersectionality of policy. But with the grace of Allah and the people of House District 88 and well beyond those lines. Like, it was a good time. So.
So, Dr. Johns, we got Representative Turner talking about people that help them overcome some hurdles. We have Imani encouraging folks to not be the second Janet Jackson. We have Mandisa mentioning leading with authenticity. So as a Black leader of a national organization doing phenomenal work, what are you doing to help support people become Black leaders themselves one day, to instill certain values and inspiration into them?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. 3 things come to mind. One is that I show up as myself without apologizing, shrinking, or hiding. And I think that that's incredibly important, especially in this moment where we are being confronted with the reality of the consequence of that, right? So the day after the election, I had a conversation with my nail tech about whether or not I still show up like this all the time. And it was, it still is challenging as I process it physically in my body, right? I have decided to be a public gay, even though I don't use the term gay, it's a white male political identifier. If y'all hear me say anything, I identify as same gender loving. But I have accepted the responsibility of doing this work publicly. And I struggle with what it means to invite people who love me into the crossfire, right? And so the painting of my nails was a question about to what extent can we shrink or hide incredibly important parts of who we are? And I think the answer is that we can't. And I had to remember that I started to paint my nails when I was teaching 3rd grade, and I had a student who had been assigned male at birth who wanted to paint his nails and then talked himself out of it because he didn't want to be bullied. And so I said to him, well, you do it, I'll do it too, and if somebody gives you shit, send them my way. And so I've decided to keep that same energy, and I think that that's really important for us in the face of fascist, totalitarian, white, mediocre people. So that's one. The second thing is, to some of my colleagues' points, I understand that there's power in numbers. If you come to the Black Institute today, you'll hear from Paquita, I don't know if Q's in the audience, but we had a conversation right after the election, and she reminded me that when white mediocre people, you'll hear me struggle because I'm no longer saying white supremacy because that's actually not what it is. But when white mediocre people come for us, they come for us in mobs. They never come for us alone, and so it's important for us to know that there is strength in community. So one of the things that I'm most proud of is that NBJC has a FUBU-like program for elected leaders like Marie Turner. It's called the Good Trouble Network. I know that there are some leaders of the Good Trouble Network who were in the audience, and we created the Good Trouble Network so that folks like Representative Turner knew that they weren't alone, and that when people in their legislature would try them, that there were people who had their back. And it's really important for us to ensure that those kinds of resources exist for all of us. I'm really thankful that when I started in this role 6 years ago, I was one of few Black queer leaders who got invited into national table meetings. Now there are enough of us to have a cookout, right? And people know it, right? And it's no longer I gotta be in the room to say the thing, because if I don't say it, it's 4 or 5 of us that's gonna say it. And you actually might want me to say it, because if Mandisa gonna say it, it's gonna be a different kind of saying, right? And so I think it's really important for those of us who have institutions and who have the ability to create spaces for folks to incubate and to link arms and aims to work better together. And then very much related to that, one of the challenges that we often have is that we don't have trampolines. When they come for us, when they scalp us, to use a term of Ed Blum, it's usually the end for us. A part of what I hope we are able to do over the next 4 years as we're working on surviving and transforming is to create spaces so that we can not just fall, but bounce further forward than where we were when they came for us in the first place. And so all of those things are so very true for NBJC, and I'm just thankful that I get to quarterback the team.
All right, all right. I hope y'all out there taking notes. I really do, I really do. So, Imani, you mentioned Beyonce earlier. You know, she has this song called Superpower. Have y'all heard of it? Yeah. So she wrote that song talking about love and commitment in the context of a relationship. Dr. Johns, you mentioned love. And so, Mandisa and Imani, in the context of Black leadership, what is your Black leadership superpower? Mandisa, I'm gonna start with you.
So I don't think of it as a superpower. I think of it as what the fuck I came here to do.
Period.
And my spouse loves this story, and my mom always tells it, of how I was born saving my own life. Like my umbilical cord had wrapped around my neck. And so I was born like grasping it because I knew that I could, like it was clear. And it's that purpose that is what grounds me. So here's what I'm trying to say. Like my skill, I think, and that people lovingly reaffirm in me is clarity and precision rooted in a Black feminist exactitude. So there's often like this fear in someone saying what a thing plainly is. It's often like this fear of a Black woman saying clearly, unapologetically, you are racist. That is sexist. I am not going to stay in this space. And that's something that is how I lead, at CHLP, in movement space outside, in terms of as an organization that's centered in people living with HIV and folks with other stigmatized health conditions. We're in this moment in which people are being told, let's not say HIV. It was really taking off of the federal government's website just yesterday, right? Or like, let's use other words that make them feel better, but that decenters those who are most impacted by violence. And so I think it's important, and that I'm proud of coming from a lineage of Black feminists in particular who have made it a life's work of saying the damn thing. And also being fortified of facing the consequences of what it means of being somebody who is clear and sharp and precise. Because that's something else. Like we talk about saying the thing, and we don't prepare for the consequences of when people don't want to be around you if you say the thing, or when someone's uncomfortable because now they're confronted.
That's right.
Because if that was racist and I was agreeing with that, then what's that saying about me? You know what I mean? Or even though I, have like the Black Lives Matter flag or whatever, I too am complicit in all these things. So it's just what comes to mind.
Oh, that's strong. Imani.
Love that. I love that. Oh, when I came into this work, I was working with students, and I was working with a student, and he wasn't doing his job very well. And I finally just talked to him. I was just like, hey, what's going on? And he had something else going on. And we talked through it, and basically he needs someone to talk to. And he didn't have, his confidence wasn't where it should be. And it was affecting all of these other parts of his life. And so when I went to grad school, I had this idea that I wanted to be part of helping folks in their life, and be part of this transformation and realizing everything they could be. That was what I thought. And then I moved into doing some other things. But what I realized is that, and I think, what I know now is that this is true for a lot of us. A lot of us have worked in spaces that have been very toxic. We've had supervisors and folks that were in positions of power not taking care of us when they said that they were. Even in times where you've been in positions of power and you have supervised folks that also have relative access to power, and you realize this dichotomy and this discomfort that happens. And I realized how that affects so many of us. And so sometimes when we do this work, we lose our confidence, and some of us never get it back. We have to work really hard. Confidence can be so fragile. It can be so incredibly fragile. And some people really do never get that back. And what I try to do is be one of those folks that are sitting behind you and saying, this is something you can do, because we can sincerely do anything. I told my board when I first started, I was like, just so you know, people that work with me, they tend to leave because they realize that they can do so much more. And that's something that we should look forward to. That is part of movement work. And that means that you're always training and doing some different work. And so there's parts of that that's hard, but there's also parts of that that's better. And you get to be part of someone's path. I read something, Malcolm Gladwell had done a bunch of research, and I won't go super deep into it, but he says, there are people that go to, well-known colleges, and when you look at this research, if you see, there are two people that get into a well-known school, and they tend to do well in life. But he's like, what the real question is, what happens when two people get into this well-known school? One goes to this school, and the other one goes somewhere else, to a less well-known school. And what he found is that when you graduate top of your class, you do pretty well. But when you don't graduate the top of your class, that's where things start to change. So even when you are at these very high-performing schools, that doesn't necessarily guarantee your success. But when you're at this other side, and folks treat you like, oh, you got into this really amazing school. You know what? Let's get you in this internship. Let's get you some extra access to something else that makes something easier. When people start treating you that way, then you start acting that way. And some of us don't always have access to that. But if we can give folks access to that, then more of us will be in those type of spaces. And so I would like to think that my superpowers is being one of those people that is helping folks become the best version of themselves. And that's certainly what I want.
Can I? Both are true. I can double tap that. I just want to jump in these double Dutch ropes. So one, my superpower is that I like to fight. Cue squabble up. I'm from Inglewood, and sometimes people just need to know that we can tussle. But I want to highlight this point around mentorship. And encourage everybody to be anchored in supporting the learning and development of a young person, right? So some folks know that I didn't just show up in this space, but I'm anchored in education. The sociology part of my PhD is because I understand that schools are required to remake social order, and I understand that educators do God's work. Shout out to all the educators in this space. But I'm saying this for two reasons. One is that both of those responses, Imani and Mandisa's responses, highlight for me the importance of networking laterally and having friends who can pour into you and who you can mentor or be mentored by. I will quickly call Imani when I want to cuss somebody out. I still might cuss them out after I get on the phone with her, but she's helped me be more precise and clear in the way in which I'm going to cuss them out. But the other thing is that when we are in relationship with folks, particularly young people who didn't ask to be born, who did not consent to these laws that are affecting their lives in incredibly intimate ways, they can often fuel us to get through these moments where it feels like we should just give this shit up because it's for naught. And so I really want you to hear my heart when I say, people used to say stupid shit when I was in the White House, like teaching isn't rocket science. You're right, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder. So I want to encourage you, if you have not considered whether or not you can be an educator, to do that, but also just show up in the lives of young people. And this is sitting deep within me in this moment because one of those executive orders that y'all's president signed destroyed the office that I was appointed by Barack Hussein Obama to lead, the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for African Americans. This was an initiative that created a federal space for us to do the kind of work we're talking about and make these kinds of investments. And there are jobs that have been lost, there's work that has been destroyed, there are websites that have been taken down. However, the way that we show up and pour into one another, especially again, babies who did not ask to be born, cannot be taken from us. So if you don't have a relationship, a meaningful relationship with a young person, please find one.
Mm-hmm.
So before we wrap up with a final question for all of you, Dr. Johns, speaking of education, in a recent interview with LGBTQ Nation, you said that democracies have to be defeated by each generation and that education is the midwife.
Defend it.
Defend it. So when talking about leadership, what is the midwife to Black queer leadership?
What is the midwife? So let me back up. That's not a Dr. David Johns thing, that's a Bell Hooks thing, lowercase b, lowercase h, because she wanted you to focus on the words and the work. What Bell Hooks says in Teaching Critical Thinking is that too often we don't teach, right? Folks don't know how a bill becomes a law. They miss Schoolhouse Rock. And the Republicans killed that a couple Congresses ago. They defunded PBS. I'm not making this up. But what she says is that too often we don't teach people that democracies have to be defended by each generation, and education is its midwife. What she's saying is that education is required to remake social order. That's how I got there. To the question of what's the midwife for Black leaders, Black political leaders, I think it's community. I would offer in this moment, Sambufu Some wrote a book, The Spirit of Intimacy, and what I know is that in this moment, more than any other time in my lifetime, I think the history of us heretofore, we have to reclaim African ways of being. And one of the things that allowed us to invent and engineer and create and encourage people to try and follow and imitate us is community. We draw strength from community. We heal in community. We experience joy in community. And it is our ability to show up for one another that allows us to take on the challenges that come with leadership and to not only succeed, but to thrive. So I think that my answer is that community is the midwife for Black political leadership.
All right.
And read Bell Hooks' book.
All right. So, a professor's gonna make sure they quote the source, so we got that in there. So, speaking of community, for the last question for the panel, directly after this plenary is the Black Institute. Do it again. All right. So the theme is charting a new way forward. My question for all of you is, how are you charting a new way forward as a Black queer leader? And I want to start with Representative Turner.
That's a good question. I think as a community member, community advocate, what I'm always trying to do, and as an organizer, what I'm always trying to do is work myself out of a job, right? To be able to share the knowledge, right? So that we know, because I think we all know, right? What's been shared here is that, like, we don't get to do this work alone, right? We don't get to liberation alone, right? And we don't get to cherry pick who crosses that finish line of liberation either, right? Like, if we are dedicated to abolition, if we are dedicated to 2S LGBTQ plus rights and liberation, right, then that means everybody who touches that space, right? And so what I am continuously trying to do is not just open doors, but make sure that they stay open, right? Continue to put those wedges there, to plant seeds of hope when I can, and to water others, right? I am continuously, I think, dedicated to trying to make sure that other folks, young or otherwise, see themselves in the work that we do and are pulled into the work that we do. Because I have been the person that is in the back of the corner of the room that just wishes they could be there. And I know what it feels like to not be heard and be seen. And so I want to make sure that I'm continuously not creating that space for other people and bringing people into the fold with me. It's harder in a place like Oklahoma, but I'm thankful for organizations like Freedom Oklahoma, like the Diversity Center, right? For the national community that I've been able to find through the Good Trouble Network, right? Through Mandisa and everybody else that has touched me in this work, right? Because that's part of my, I guess, photographic memory, is that I remember everybody who touched my life for me to be able to be here today, because I didn't just fall forward continuously on my own, right? There were leaders. Before I ran for office, the last person who told me I could be president was when I was 24 years old, right? Like right before I ran for office, right? People believed in me because, and I allowed them to, because so often we don't allow people to believe in us, so.
Ooh. As a Black feminist and as an abolitionist, it's really important that those values center how I lead this national legal and policy organization. And if that sounds like a contradiction, it is. And I think that is what this moment has in it, is not shying away from the sticky areas, not shying away from the areas that seem like a crossroads, like a contradiction. And the reason why is a Black feminism is not just this theory, right? It's an actual framework. Yeah. It's a lens, much like eyeglasses, that really help you see exactly what's happening and the solutions that our ancestors, Hooks, Lord, so many more, and also elders who are still alive. Thank you to the Combahee River Collective. Many of those women are still here and begging for us to engage with their living texts. And that is how I lead this national organization, and how we do like our policy work, and being able to sit in the innovation that's really needed in this moment. So if, for example, if I know that something impacts Black women, both trans and cis, then a Black feminist lens means that the only way I'm gonna move forward is to think of a policy solution that is centering all Black women. If we're talking about HIV and we're not talking about sex work, then we're actually not having a conversation about HIV. You know, if we're talking about HIV and we're not talking about the deep, deep South where I'm from, then we're not having a conversation. And so being able to center that in leadership is what is necessary. And for all of us, like, to start from our core and to use that, as was said, not some other idea. What centers me, what anchors me, that's how I'm gonna lead this organization. That's how the fuck we win and last. I'm a New Orleanian. If folks know the history of the Black Mexican Indians, we don't bow down, no one bow. We don't cede shit. It is an ugly fight that we have been in, and it is gonna get worse in many ways. And part of us being clear that we don't bow down is how I believe we're gonna get through it, because my ancestors told me that.
Yeah, period. Next paragraph. So, I don't know that this is about a new way forward. I had to write that down, and I'm still sitting with it. I think, to Mandisa's point, for me, this is about reclaiming things that we know deep within our souls. So it's one, as I said earlier, reclaiming African ways of being. 2 is keeping my foot on the necks of white terrorists. 3 is teaching the babies, animating what Mandisa talked about. Black feminists give us terms like the matrix of domination, the signs, systems, and symbols that allow white mediocrity to be omnipresent yet hyper invisible, making sure that our babies have the language so that they can do the work. That's really important. Showing up in love and channeling this righteous race so that niggas know you are not getting shit without having to come through me for it. All those things are really important. And I think the last thing is building containers so that we can not only survive but thrive. And so I encourage anybody, especially those of us in this room who identify as Black, to join us in Brasilia 4 for the Black Institute after this, where we will continue these conversations.
Amen.
Hi, Dennis.
Amen.
I am so proud to be on this stage, y'all. I mean, this just feels right and good. For me, what I think about is the type of structural change that we can make. You know, I think when we're in positions, a lot of times people say, you know, leave the door open, bring someone with you. But the truth is, what we need to do is actually, there shouldn't be a door. You know, the idea is not that we are bringing one person or, well, now, because I'm a social worker, well, now social workers can do this stuff. The thing is, what we need to be doing is eliminating barriers. And so that is really what I try to do, is find ways to create structural change that eliminates barriers. You know, when we think about what does hiring look like, when we, you know, we know that women are far less likely to apply for jobs. That, you know, research shows us 60%, men, if they have 60% of the qualifications, they will apply for a job. And you know what? Good, you should be. But we know that number is nearly 100 for women, 100% for women. So when we have our job descriptions, when we push out, we say just this exact stat, that there are women, there are folks of color, there are LGBTQ people that are less likely to apply for jobs. If you think that you can do this job, apply for this job. We also don't make people negotiate their salary. Thank you. We also don't make people negotiate their salary, though, because that only hurts folks. You know, obviously it's the bottom line that we have to look at our budget and everything, but we know that that's coming out of the pockets of the same people all the time. And so, and it's actually not a job requirement that they have to negotiate well. It's not part of the job interview. It's actually our first interaction as coworkers, and I want that first interaction to be I want you to know that I'm going to do absolutely everything that I can for you, and that's how I'm going to show up. I'm going to give you everything that I can, and because I have it to give. And I think that's something that's really important. And then there's other things too, that we know that there are more folks that apply for jobs when you keep them up longer. And I know a lot of times we need to get someone in there, we're like, let's get this up for 2 weeks and just see what we have. We see that there are more folks that apply when we keep it up longer. And so when you create these sort of structural changes, it makes it possible for more folks to find a way into your organization. And so we think about recruiting folks, but also about retaining folks once they're here. Because in order to get folks through the door, you have to make it easy for them, and you have to make them want to stay here. And I think, investing in HR folks and policies that protect people in the organization, that really change the way that we think about human resources and people, culture, and equity, that's a really important part of the work that we do. And so for me, I try to think about structural change, about being incredibly strategic about what we're doing to make it easier for our folks.
To this point about structural change and making it easier for folks, this is on my spirit, which is that we've done a lot of labor in this moment. We signed up to do it. Thank you to everyone, Kiera and the team, for being intentional in creating this space. But my ask is for everybody in this space, physically and virtually, who is not Black, my ask for you is to consider answering the question, what are you going to do for a Black leader that you know? Not hypothetical, not hyperbole. If you want to holler at me, I'm here all week. Would love to work on your answer, but I'm really interested in what are you going to do with whatever privilege you have inherited or acquired to support a Black leader you know. And if you don't have a relationship with a Black leader, start there, beloved.
Well, y'all got y'all marching orders. Representative Turner, Mandisa, Dr. Johns, Imani, I thank you. The audience, thank you. Let's give them a round of applause.
Good job.
Thank you. Come on, moderator.
Hey,
Come on.
Hey. We got this.
Good job, y'all.
Thank you all very much for being here. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you all so much. Can we get one more round of applause for our panel, please? Okay, you should have gotten your notification in the Feed Loop app. If you didn't get a notification, that means you didn't download it. But all of the day-long institutes have been pushed to 11:45. Lunch is still at 1 o'clock. We hope you enjoy yourselves today, and we'll see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a good one. Hey. Okay, I got to get off stage, y'all. See y'all later. Thank you.